What's up, everyone? This is Ignatius, and today I am bringing to you something that many have requested over the last couple of weeks, which is a quick guide to crafting Waystones, which will include two really valuable resources. One is a tier list for the Abyss mod step of the Waystone Crafting, and the other is my advice on what to do with the Waystones that result from your craft. So the first thing I want to mention is that I am going to have a written version of this guide, which can serve as kind of a cheat sheet for everything that you see me do here. So that way, when you iterate back through the steps, you know you're doing the right things in the right order. All right, so let's dive right in. This is going to involve 5 steps. I'm going to apply each step to a handful of 20 Waystones that all have varying starting places. And then I'll kind of summarize what to do at the end of each step. So first of all, in terms of cost, I kind of valued out in this guide what each of the currency items are going to be applying costs. And I think it comes out to, at least today, approximately 52 Exalt per Waystone. Another way to think of this is that every 5 Waystones costs about a Divine. The really good one that we're going to sell is going to sell for 2 to 4 Divines per. So there is a potential to recoup investment here. It also goes without saying that while you're creating the ones that you're going to sell, you're also creating ones that you're going to run. So I think overall there is a net positive gain in this process. Step 1. Very simple. You're going to use basic currency to maximize your Waystone affixes. So obviously we have some that are normal. We're going to hit those with Alks. We have some with 1 property. We're going to hit those with Augs, Regals, and then we're going to Exalt Slam everything else. And here's kind of what that looks like. Start with your Alchemy. We've got 5 normals. Then we're going to go to Augmentation. There's 5 that need a second property. Then we're going to Regal. We've got about 10 that need this. And then we need to Exalt Slam all of them up to 6 affixes. Okay, that's the end of step 1. We have a handful of Waystones, 20 exactly, that are all now 6 affixes. Now we're going to use the very infamous Omen of Chaotic Rarity, highlighted with 20 Orbs of Chaos, and we're going to slam 1 Chaos on each Waystone. A couple of gotchas here. One is that the game will allow you to multi-slam these Waystones with more than 1 Chaos, so make sure you don't do that. And then also, this has happened to me, your Omen stack runs out, but you don't realize it, and so now you're slamming Chaos without active Omens. Just keep an eye on those 2 things. Okay, I got 20 here. We're going to go ahead and slam them with 20 Chaos. 1920. And what this does is re-roll all the affixes to affixes that also add item rarity to the Waystone. I have seen in some recommendations on Waystone Crafting to first preview your Waystones for whether they already rolled 80-ish rarity just, by chance from the original slams. I don't do that because I always do these in bulk, and that just slows me down, at the cost of only about 10 to 20 Exalt per extra Chaotic Rarity Omen. And, without saying, it would be super rare that you magically rolled one that was over 100 rarity. And that's really where you want to be for all of these, because if you cheap up on this step, and then on your lower rarity Waystone that you decided not to slam in this step, you ended up rolling the really good Abyss mod, you just kind of, threw that out the window of having the perfect combo of a really valuable Waystone. All right, step 3, we're going to Desecrate. This is really, really simple. We're going to take the very cheap preserved vertebra and throw 1 on each Waystone. It will not let you do this more than once per, so pretty safe there. Now we're going to go down to the Well of Souls, and we're going to reveal, and we're going to look at the now infamous table of Veiled Modifier Tierlist, which is up for discussion. I did not really collaborate with anyone on this tier list. This is mostly just my experience, having now rolled and run many hundreds of maps. I may be over 1,000 at this point because I'm so degen. This is just my experience of valuing these different mods. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the main, cornerstones of value here and how to read this chart. So there's one mod that is extremely good. Areas overrun by the Abyssal. And this is sellable in my experience for 2 to 4 div if the rarity is over 100% and if you roll on it Liquid Paranoia, which will add increased number of rare monsters. So this is, this is the home run. This is the one that you want to see. If it has 18 pits, it's also like extremely good. All right, with that out of the way, I've got 4 that I'm putting in A tier, and that's because I think these are really good to run yourself. I don't necessarily think these are like significantly more sale value than other mods. They may be by a handful of exalts, give or take, but these are the ones that I like to run myself always. Abyssal Depths and Abyssal Boss, these give you, an underground area in the Abyss, and in here you can find the really good omens, the ancient crafting mechanisms, so stuff that's worth multi-divine becomes available when you go down into here, and, it's independent of your map mods, so they're just neutrally really good areas to find. Abyss pits in area always have rewards and additional pits. I like these because the enhancements are really good, but also the rewards, each pit giving a reward equals more coffers, and you have rare monsters. So these are, all 4 really solid to run. Tier B, I like these ones for different reasons on each one. This Marked for Death one, this is super rippy, makes you take 50% increased incoming damage, but look, 40% increased rarity in the area. That's a really big bonus. Incubator Queen I've done a lot of testing with. I don't like the pack size mod. I think it's bad and I think it's bait. However, the Queen herself is pretty good, and she's dropped several high tier currencies for me and often drops multiple tiered items, so I just like her. And then the natural monsters in area have an Abyss modifier. So again, we have a rare monster buff, and then we're adding a modifier to all our rares in the map. We don't really know exactly what this does mathematically, but the general idea in all the PoE games is more modifiers equals more loot. So that seems pretty solid. Tier C, this kind of sits out on its own. If you've got a tile in the Atlas that is already an Abyss tile, so you look at the Atlas and it's got the green Abyss icon on it, then you may consider running this mod, which really does work. It can make the final set of pits from the Abyss extremely rewarding, but also really difficult. This, I think, is the most difficult content in the league. It's more difficult than really any of the Pinnacle content. And of course, you don't really get much value running this in a regular map, but if it's one that's already overrun by the Abyss and you apply this map, you could be looking at the most rewarding combination of, map mods in the league. The other ones I won't really mention. All of these are tier D because the upside on the Waystone is not very good. This one I have in tier D because while 50% increased rare monsters is really good, when you fight this map boss who is in Union of Souls, it is an extremely difficult fight, and you can navigate around it in the Atlas and just not apply this one to Atlas tiles that have a map boss, but if you forget, you might be breaking that map and that could be really bad. Lastly, we have Tier Z, and these are basically unrunnable because of the downsides. I'm going to throw these 20 maps in and go ahead and reveal, and I'm going to cut this part out of the video and then show you the results. Okay, the results are in, and that set of 20 maps was not a good one. At least in terms of I didn't high roll with the areas overrun by the Abyss mod. I did get a lot of depths, boss, rewards, and pits. I got a few Incubator Queens and a few Marked for Deaths. And then I had a really strong handful of these Tier Ds and a few offerings of the Tier Cs. So now here's what I can recommend to do from here. And this is kind of the fork in the road, depending on what route you want to go. Step 4 and Step 5 are to add Delirious, so you're going to instill them with the liquid emotions from Simulacrum. And then Step 5 optional is to corrupt the map, and that can potentially upgrade the map to a Tier 16, making it more valuable for you or for somebody who's buying. It could also potentially reforge the modifiers into like an 8 mod, and stack, rare monsters and rarity or pack size in some way that's really, really nice. So because there's all these different outcomes, what you want to do is really up to you. The first thing I'd recommend doing is move all these Waystones into a tab, so that way you can filter them by the modifier. And then you can kind of decide what to do from there, or you can sort them in different, piles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the ones that have the modifiers that I actually, like, they're pretty good, but they're not resellable. And so I want to like run them myself, and I want to do something with them in particular that makes them more valuable to me, for me to run. So we've got the additional rewards, we've got depths, we've got boss, and then we're going to grab additional pits. Oh, that one is Union of Souls, additional pits, and then marked for death, which is going to be like our super big, you know, rarity roll. All right, so here's all the ones that I potentially want to run myself, and then here's the ones that really bricked. And with these really bricked ones, I mean, it depends on how frivolous you want to be. You maybe don't want to anoint them at all. You could just Vaal them and drop them in a tab. You can sell them back to the vendor if you need the gold. But yeah, it's really up to you. Now, these ones, which I really like, which I want to run myself, here's what I'm going to do with these. I'm going to take them all, and I'm going to distill them with Paranoia. If you don't know how to do this, you open up the panel, you give it 3, and go. Now, if it was a map that already dropped with Deliriousness, there is a chance that it can still receive Paranoia up to 2. This one can only get 1, but you can add even more to them, which is good to know. That one already has 3, so that one's, you know, good to go. But yeah, we'll go ahead and assume I'm going to put Paranoia on all of these, and I'm going to plan to run them myself. I've got a tab called Maps to Run, and here's all the ones I'm going to run myself. I'll spare you watching me do that to the rest of those. Now again, it's a fork in the road. You can kind of decide what you want to do with these other ones. Right now, I'm trying to level up to 98 and eventually all the way to 100. So I'm actually not going to instill and run these marked for deaths, even though they're really good. That mark increases incoming damage by 50% and very likely to die. These 2 additional pit ones, these are solid. I'll go ahead and Paranoia these and run them. And then for all the remaining ones that I'm not going to run, what I am going to do is instill them, and you could use a liquid greed if you wanted to, rather than a Paranoia, since the greed is quite a bit cheaper. I don't really mind like the incoming investment cost of Paranoia, so I'm just gonna, you know, throw Paranoia on all of them. And then after I throw it on all of them, I'm going to Vaal them. And that could potentially reforge them, or it could upgrade them to tier 16. And then the tier 16s could have resale value, or I might run them on my maps that, you know, are really dense and high item level for more XP, or, you know, whatever it is. So we'll slam all those. Didn't get any 16s. I got a 14. Let's see if we have any reforges in here. This one looks like a reforge. Nope, it's the same. That one's a reforge. So you see it now has 8 mods, and the rarity is up to 126, and the Waystone drop chance up to 165. So that's an example of like a really good reforge. It's all the 90% Delirious. Is kind of a crazy map. This looks like another reforge. You see rare monsters is 73 and rarity is 131. This is actually now like a really, really solid Waystone thanks to the reforge. And this looks like another reforge. We've got rare monsters 45, rarity 149, Waystone drop chance 140. Now, I don't actually know in terms of, you know, selling a Waystone, whether Waystone drop chance has resale value. It very well may, because I know people, you know, they try and get as many of the currency items for Arbiter on the Waystone. But yeah, potentially that could be valuable. I don't know. I see like 1 and all is the cheapest for ones that have these 2 mods. So there might be some value in there, but I wouldn't call myself an expert on it. But yeah, that's kind of what I do with those. These ones that I don't plan to run, which, you know, ended up potentially re-rolling well, I'm just going to drop these in a Waystone tab for 50 Exalt, and, you know, just go about my day and see if they sell. If they don't, I can drop them. I can end up selling them back to the vendor. I can run them myself after I actually level up. Who knows what I'll do with all those. But yeah, that kind of completes the process. Once again, you know, if you're doing this for profit, I would say it's a pretty slim margin. I've re-rolled a lot, and I do find that this, you know, this modifier of overrun by Abyss is pretty rare. I've had sets of 40 where I don't hit it. All right, just as a quick recap, I want to say thank you everyone for watching. I hope this guide is helpful. I welcome your criticism, your thoughts, and hopefully some additions to this process, maybe things I haven't mentioned, which will be really helpful for others. If I hear of those, I will update those in the comments on the video and of course in the guide. Underneath in the description, I'll provide you a link to the written guide, to the Abyss mod tier list, to the PoEdb Desecrated mod sheet. And lastly, I want to call out my Discord server. If you are on Discord and you're not a part of our server, come and join. We've got dedicated channels for certain builds, for legacy builds, for crafting, and honestly, we just have a much smaller and niche and very iterative community where we're having productive conversations every day. So if that's your thing, come on by and contribute and be a part of the awesomeness that is in here. Last plug I'll give is right now I'm on a quest to get to level 100 solo without any buying people's really high XP maps or whatever, and just kind of seeing how long it takes. And I'm streaming every night while I do that, so follow me on Twitch, follow me on Kick, keep an eye out for the YouTube live VODs. This is the one from last night, and come on by and hang out. Feel free to drop me your questions about your build or about crafting or whatever it is, and we'll have an awesome discussion and time together in the live stream. So thanks again everyone for watching, and have a good one.